Welcome, everybody. Good morning. Thank you for the intro again. So today we're on week 3. Thanks for taking the time to listen to me these past 3 weeks. So today, hold on one second here because I'm just moving something around. Okay. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about what you as employees can be doing to help to contribute to a work environment that's free from harassing behavior. I think this slide pretty much just says it all, that if you behave in a way that ECI reflects the values that ECI has, it reflects the values that are shown in their policies, there shouldn't be a problem. Professionalism is key, and ECI values is key. So really, I could stop right here, but of course, I have 15 to 20 minutes, so I'm not going to. We're going to dig into this a little bit more deeply. I think that the key to a lot of this is just plain using common sense and being respectful when you're interacting with other people in the workplace. So remember that golden rule, right? You want to treat other people as you would be expected to be treated yourself. Here's that word respect again. Treat your coworkers with the respect that you would actually give to a client, right? If you're going to say something to a coworker, granted, you're going to know your coworkers better than you're going to know your clients, but think of your coworkers sometimes as clients, especially if they're coworkers that you don't know very well. They should absolutely be treated with the same level of respect. Keeping it professional, keeping it work related. Think before you speak. This is a big one. If you have a little voice in your head that's saying before you say something, oh, is this appropriate or isn't it appropriate? Chances are it's not appropriate. So if anything is making you feel uneasy before you say something, hold back and think about it before you say it. Chances are it's not something that you should be saying in the workplace. And you really can't assume that whatever you're saying in the workplace really is acceptable by other people, because some people are going to be more comfortable being forthcoming and saying, I really didn't appreciate the way you talked to me. Other people are going to just keep it inside and they're not going to say anything. They're the people that don't want to create any waves. And you're just assuming because of their silence that they're okay with it. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more as well, because that makes it difficult if you don't come forward. But as we know, a lot of people don't. So you can't just automatically assume that the behavior that you're engaging in is okay with people that you're around every day. So I kind of like this one too. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. So when we're talking about the people, the silent ones who don't say anything and they don't create waves and they just kind of sit back and say, well, I guess this is just how it is around here. To those people, I think that it's really important that you remember that you don't have to put up with inappropriate behavior in the workplace. But it's also kind of incumbent on you to come forward and say that something's going on that you're not all right with. I think that part of preventing is just kind of keeping focused on the work at hand. If you've got a lot of time on your hands to be talking about things other than work-related issues, you might have a little bit too much time on your hands, right? Avoiding personal observations and comments. I'm not saying don't be nice and don't be social to people, but personal observations where you might be critical. I mentioned last week, you're having a bad hair day. You might look at somebody and say, oh, that outfit, I can't believe they're wearing that. Oh, look at the color of that shirt. That's terrible. It doesn't match their pants. Who cares? Keep it to yourself. It really doesn't matter. Keeping appropriate boundaries. We talked about physical boundaries. Those are a must. Touching in the workplace is just something that isn't acceptable anymore. Some people just like to keep up more personal boundaries as well. You always have people in the workplace who are more than willing to be sharing their personal lives. Others, maybe not so much. Just remember that not everybody is going to want to share. Don't instigate polarizing conversations. I'm not saying don't engage in polarizing conversations, because sometimes you have to. Polarizing conversations take place in the workplace all the time over things that you disagree on. You're not always going to disagree with people, but don't intentionally instigate them. If they come up because it's a workplace issue that you're not agreeing on, that's one thing. But if you know that there's somebody out there who has different political views than you, don't egg them on. No means no. This is really big. If, say, for example, you have an attraction to somebody in the workplace and you think, oh, okay, I'm going to ask that person out. And that person outright says no. You need to let it go. Don't keep going back to that person, because that's when it could cross that threshold into harassment. So, remember, if somebody says, no, don't engage in that behavior, or no, I'm not going to go out with you, you need to take it at face value and say, okay, I'm not going to push that anymore. And again, don't touch anyone without their permission. That's the physical boundaries that we've talked quite a bit about. And I wanted to touch on, this is kind of a buzz phrase nowadays, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Here in the HR world, it's called DEI. But it is important, and it does kind of fit into the atmosphere that ECI really works hard to create, where your workforce is respecting that everybody in the workplace is different, and you've got respect for those differences. There is a lot of value in diversity, right? A lot of people talk about, oh, well, this employee, they're just not a very good culture fit. I think it's important, instead of thinking about, well, they just don't fit in, think about, what are they adding to your culture? Yeah, maybe they're different than most of the people that you have out there on your work site, but different only means that they're adding something, right? They don't all need to fit in, because with diversity comes more ideas. It comes broader thinking. So think on the terms of somebody adding to your culture, as opposed to this person just doesn't fit. Treating everybody with that same level of respect. And it doesn't matter whether it's a coworker, it doesn't matter if it's a vendor, it doesn't matter if you're on a work site and it's somebody that's just walking by on the street. They deserve the same level of respect. And, I kind of like this phrase too. Diversity is when you are inviting somebody to the dance, right? Diversity is when you say, okay, we're going to have a diverse workforce, so we want to make sure that we have a lot of different age groups and different genders that are represented in our workforce. That's kind of different than actually going to a dance and being asked to dance, right? Because somebody who doesn't fit in, they can go to the dance, but they're going to be sitting off in a corner and nobody's going to be talking to them. So there's a difference between actually diversifying your workforce and having a lot of different factions out there on your work sites versus actually including them into your everyday work and your everyday interactions. So, it's important to remember that just because somebody in your workplace is different from you, it doesn't mean that you can push them aside. You should be interacting with them just as you would interact with anybody else in the workplace. So going back a little bit to the people who don't like to speak up. So if you've got something that's going on in the workplace and it's just making you feel a little bit uncomfortable, I think it's important to just trust your instincts. Kind of like I talked about your instincts telling you that something you're about to say isn't okay. If you're uncomfortable about a behavior that's going on in a workplace, chances are the behavior probably isn't okay either. So I do think it's important to, even though it can be difficult, to let your coworkers know when something's going on, somebody's engaging in some sort of offensive or inappropriate conduct. And that's important even if you're just a casual observer, right? You could have two people who are interacting with each other and they're telling off-color jokes and they have nothing to do with you, but you have to work next to it and you have to hear it and it's really bothering you. So I think it's important to, step up and say, this isn't what we're all about here. I'd really appreciate it if you stop. And you don't have to say it in a way that's being offensive to the people that you're talking to. You can say it nicely, but I think it's important to try to get that point across. But also know that if you're really not comfortable doing that, you have so many people within ECI that you can go to. You can go to Ben, you can go to Matt, you can go to one of the owners. You can go to whoever it is that's going to be doing your HR. Since Sue left, we're not really sure who that is, but you can go to your direct supervisor. I think, but it's important to go to somebody who is in a position to do something. If you're just talking to a coworker about it, hopefully that coworker is going to say, I really think that you need to talk to somebody else about this who can actually do something about it. And the same thing, if you ever get a coworker coming to you and griping about something that's going on in the workplace, encourage them to bring it up with somebody who is in a position to do something about it. So you've got a lot of different options if you really aren't comfortable stepping up and saying, hey, this isn't okay. So if you do run across a situation where people are engaging in, potentially harassing or even just plain inappropriate behavior, there are ways that you can diffuse the situation. And, you can, if you're coming up on a conversation, say, for example, the two people telling off-color jokes, you can kind of inject your way in there and totally change the subject, talk about something work-related, or, just kind of come between the two of them and start talking about something totally different so that the situation kind of goes away, at least in the moment. It doesn't mean that means that this behavior isn't going to kick up again, because if it's happening once, it's probably happening a number of times that you don't even see. But it would at least alleviate the situation in the moment so that nobody else is overhearing what you have to overhear. If you hear somebody who is a target of some sort of harassing behavior, it would probably be appropriate to actually pull that person aside and say, I heard what he said to you, or I heard what she said to you, and it's not okay. And I really do think that you need to tell them that it's not okay. Or again, let's go to Ben or let's go to Matt and let them know what's going on, because this isn't all right. And again, I'll go back to saying, if you've heard it once, chances are other people have heard it as well, and it's going on way more than just that one time. So it is important to say something about it. If you're comfortable, you can always talk one-on-one with the person who's engaging in the offensive behavior and say, I heard that, and I'm sure it made so-and-so feel uncomfortable. So you know what? Knock it off. Again, you can go to your manager, you can go to HR. I also think this is just my own little tip, because my brain tends to be a sieve, and if I don't write things down, I don't remember. So, if you have an opportunity, just kind of write down what happened, the circumstances, so that you can remember it later on. Because if it's something that actually turns into an all-out investigation, you're going to be asked about it. And if you're not asked about it for a week, the world passes you by in a week, and an awful lot of things start cluttering your brain, and your memory really isn't that clear. So if you have an opportunity, just jot down, this happened when, this is what was said, and these are the circumstances. This is what happened. So that's just my own little helpful hint. So again, when it comes time to actually reporting it, and it's going to be in your harassment policy that you're going to get when that handbook comes out, that you have a lot of different options to go to. And again, under Vermont law, ECI is required to appropriately investigate these complaints. And just because you have reported it, you are now protected from any kind of retaliatory action. So you can feel 100% comfortable going to management if there's something going on that you feel needs to be addressed. So again, ECI is going to investigate a complaint. And according to your policy, here's kind of an outline of how a complaint process would happen. You would go to someone who is in a management position. You're going to tell them what happened. They're going to say, okay, we're going to need to do an investigation. One thing that I need to kind of say and make sure that it's up front is that ECI can't guarantee anonymity in this. They can't guarantee that this is going to be confidential. They're going to make every effort to keep it confidential. But we all know that, especially in a smaller organization, that people talk, word gets out. Hopefully, everybody's going to respect confidentiality with this. Your management team absolutely will. They are required to. But it doesn't mean that in the course of an investigation, people aren't going to put two and two together and figure out who it is. So there's never going to be a guarantee that everything is going to stay confidential. So if you are the person who's brought this forward, you will be advised of the outcome. That doesn't mean that you're going to be told all the details of this person. We interviewed this person, and this person, and this is what they said happened. No, they're just going to tell you, we've looked into it. We found that there's a possibility that some harassing behavior took place. We've taken action, and we don't expect that it's going to happen again. But if it does, you know where to find us. We need to know. If it's applicable, there will be disciplinary action against anybody who is found to have been engaging in harassing behavior, and as that's worded, up to and including termination of employment. So, it depends. There is no one size fits all. If it's something that, it was a one-off comment, the person who said it didn't realize that it would be taken the way it was taken, you're not going to lose your job over it. But if it's something that's really egregious, if you're sitting on your phone and you're looking at a porn site, you know what? That's a problem. You will probably lose your job over that. So again, and then the person who has brought the complaint is also going to be told that, we've taken actions to make sure that this harassing behavior is going to stop. They're not necessarily going to say, well, we've given this person a final warning, or we've terminated somebody. No, they're just going to say, we've taken appropriate action, and we are making sure that this harassment is going to stop. So, and again, that retaliation piece, just remember you are protected from any kind of retaliation. And that goes for actually participating in an investigation as well. So if you at some point get a phone call from Ben and they say, okay, we need to meet with you, and they sit you down and they say, I need you to tell us what you remember about this day and what happened and what was said. That you don't have to think to yourself, I can't come out and say what I know because I'm really, really afraid that this is my boss you're talking about. Say, for example, they're doing an investigation on your supervisor. You might be a little hesitant to come out and say what you heard because it's going to get your supervisor in trouble. You are protected against retaliation.